Well, while we're waiting for Rory, Mike, have you got the bear on a trail camera yet?
No, I actually went and tracked a bear. I'll show you guys if I can show you real fast. Tracked a bear on Friday in Western Mass, but nothing here in Easton.
It only counts if it's the Easton bear.
Yeah, well, you guys can't tell. Nah, there's a bear
No,
back there.
it's
What,
kind of like our own version of Sasquatch.
is there still an Easton bear?
Oh,
Walking
there's still an Easton bear. There's photos of it in Tanglewood, which is hysterical.
as of like
As of like 2 weeks ago, there were photos of it walking through a backyard in Tanglewood eating from a bird feeder.
I mean, it is bear season, so he's not in a good spot right now.
I think he's probably pretty safe in Tanglewood.
He might be safe in Tanglewood. That's a fair thing. He's probably cold. I mean, that's some good food.
I mean, a bird feeder is easy hunting.
Yeah.
So.
It is
technically illegal, right? You couldn't get him from a bird feeder if you were the person who put it there anyway.
That's true. That'd be bad. That'd be really bad. Yeah, yeah. There's no accidental hunting over bird feed. As much as they tell you that they accidentally.
Sorry about the delay, everybody. I had Zoom updates. Whoa, look at Al.
Looks like he's in Africa.
Oh, that looks awesome.
Yes, actually, it is. It's Sangita Reserve right outside of Kruger. It's about a 350 square mile reserve.
I honest to God thought that was the tree across from Merle Hall.
Oh, that tree that tree went down. It's no longer there.
Yeah.
So it being on or about 6:30, I'll stress the above. I bring this Easton Conservation Commission for November 21st, 2022 to order. And here we go. In keeping with an act relative to extending certain COVID-19 measures adopted during the state of emergency as amended by Governor Baker on February 12th, 2022, this meeting will be conducted remotely over Zoom. Attendance by commission members will be remote, and remote attendance shall count towards quorum. Please note this meeting is being recorded, both audio and video, and likely be available by ECAT for playback at a later time. Just in order to establish quorum, let's take a roll call attendance.
Benson present.
Carol present.
Crossman present.
Spadia present.
And Caulfield's present. So seeing we have 5 members present and have a quorum, we will proceed. Jennifer, just as a housekeeping thing, are there any continuances that are not on the agenda?
91 Union.
So 91 Union's the only one. So they've continued to 12/5?
Correct.
Okay, so for any members of the public who are interested in 91 Union, we will not be having that hearing today. The applicant has requested a continuance, so I just want to put you on notice so you don't hang around for an hour and then wonder why you didn't get a chance to speak. Okay, so first up here is 5 Joshua Drive. This is an abbreviated notice of resource area delineation for this property. Just as a point of information, we do have a butters notifications for all the new hearings tonight. So I just want to get
Mr.
that
Chairman, you have all the butters notices and Mullins forms on file.
Thank you. So as noted, we are all tidy and ready to go. Okay, so Claire, I assume you're here for the applicant.
Yes, I am. For the record, Claire Hogeboom, wetland scientist with LEC Environmental Consultants, representing the applicant Ashfield Estates to confirm resource area boundaries at 5 Joshua Drive. Mr. Chairman, with your permission, may I share the plans with you?
Yes, please. Thank you.
All right. All right. So before you see the plans prepared by the engineer, Strong Point Engineering, depicting the wetland resource area boundaries on site. We delineated the boundary of a bordering vegetated wetland within the eastern portion of the site, as you can see here. And we also evaluated an area in the western portion of the site where my cursor is, that was depicted on the Easton GIS map as a wet feature. And upon our site evaluation, while it is sort of dominated by a stand of pussy willow, the other upland vegetation present there, along with the upland soil characteristics and lack of hydrologic indicators, we determined that it did not meet the criteria to be considered jurisdictional under the state or bylaw regulations. I reviewed Jennifer's staff report, and from my understanding, she agreed with our conclusion there, and she provided a comment asking us to place this area on the plan set, provide the square footage of it, and note it as a non-jurisdictional area. So we did that on the plans here. So this is not what we originally submitted. This is a revised set, only this portion changed. And we're just waiting on a stamp from the professional land surveyor for the final set. But I just wanted to share this with you so you could see the revision we made to address Jennifer's comment.
Very good. Jennifer?
That was really my only comment, just to add the isolated area to the plan with a note that says it's not jurisdictional, just for reference.
Yeah, just so that it makes sure that somebody doesn't think we missed it.
Right.
Good, good. Thanks. So any questions or comments from the commission? Any public comment for 5 Joshua Drive? You can raise your hand or put a question in the comment box. So seeing none, Claire, Jennifer, do we have an issue closing and issuing the ORAD pending the plans? We can make that.
Yep. I understand the plans should be ready tomorrow, so it shouldn't be a long time before we receive them.
Okay, so we'll just vote contingent upon a new set of plans being provided. So Claire, I assume you want to close?
I would love to. That sounds like a great plan to me. Thank you, Rory.
You're welcome. So I make a motion to close 5 Joshua Drive.
Spady, second.
Caulfield, Spady, a second. Roll call vote. Elliot, yeah, there you go.
Benson, I.
Carol, I.
Crossman, aye.
Spady, aye.
Caulfield's aye. So now we need to make a motion to issue an order of resource area delineation for 5 Joshua Drive, noting that the applicant is to provide updated set of plans.
Benson, second.
Caulfield's Benson, second. Roll call vote.
Benson, I.
Carol, I.
Crossman, aye.
Spady, aye.
Caulfield's aye. So 5-0, 5-0 across the board. Thank you, Claire.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you, Jennifer, for your time. Have a great evening.
Thank you. You too.
So Jennifer, do we want to talk about 8 Joshua later on in the meeting?
You can do that later. Yeah.
Okay. Let me just note it on my agenda, or else I'll forget.
Yep. I'm doing the same.
Okay, next up is 35 Oliver Street. This is for a request for determination for construction access within a buffer zone. And I believe we have Josh Hassenfuss with us.
Yeah, hi.
Hi, Josh.
Is
Josh
Amanda,
Hassenfuss here with the
Amanda
trustee.
with you, Josh, or is it just you?
I think Amanda's joining too.
Thanks.
Yep.
Here she comes.
So, sorry about that. I'm Josh Hassenfuss, project manager for the trustees. And this project is related to the Governor Ames Estate on 35 Oliver Street, and related to the demolition of the residence, the former house that's on the interior of the property. So if it's okay with the chair, I'd like to share the screen.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you.
So this site plan it relates to the piece of property on Oliver Street, and that's where this work is limited to. And really, this plan is for buffer zone access for the demolition and construction of the new tent pad. So when in the spring, the area where the house is now will become a landscape area with the tent pad. So the only work within the buffer zone, it's not so much work, it's access to the work site. And that's on the existing paved driveway where my cursor is here. So this is at that corner of Oliver Street, kind of across from the Historical Society, the old train station. And that borders Shovel Shop Pond. So of course the driveway is within the buffer zone. So we have erosion control shown here, and the construction access is on this driveway. And there's the house that will be demolished, and the new tent pad installed in the spring. There's a second buffer zone here on the small water body behind the house known as Crystal Lake, and we're just outside the 100, which is this orange line here. But we have shown erosion control to serve as a limit of work and sediment control at the edge of that site. So with Jennifer's input, we do have the filter mitt construction detail here, and there is one catch basin out at the beginning of the driveway that we will do some sediment protection on as well with the silt sack.
Okay. Anything else?
I think that's just about it. With Jennifer's input, we did get, kind of all these resource areas identified on the plan, and I think we have a pretty complete plan here for the scope of work. So answer any questions.
Jennifer?
Josh, maybe just point out the floodplain and the 100-foot buffer to the floodplain under the bylaw, please.
Yeah. So there's the floodplain. I've got to zoom in here, but yeah, I believe this is the floodplain, and that's the 100-foot buffer to the floodplain.
So the blue line is the floodplain.
The blue line. Okay, yep, the blue line is the floodplain. Yep.
Correct. Yeah, I just had some minor plan changes for them, and they've made them all. So I don't have any other questions for them.
Any questions from the commission?
That access way is presently paved, right?
That's right. That's the existing driveway.
And I see there's erosion control to the right of that. Is there any work or grading or anything proposed to the right of that driveway?
No, we just added it there for, any track out, especially that we're hoping to begin this work in December. So, could go either way with being wet and muddy or frozen.
Okay.
So that's just there strictly for any kind of track out.
All right, that makes sense. Thank you.
Sure.
Anyone else? Any public comment for 35 Oliver Street? You can raise your hand, put a question in the Q&A box. Okay, so seeing none, Josh, I assume you want to close?
Yes, please.
Make a motion to close 35 Oliver Street.
Carol, second.
Caulfield's Carol, second to close. Roll call vote.
Benson, aye.
Carol, aye.
Crossman, aye.
Sandy, aye.
Caulfield's aye. So now that the hearing's closed, any additional discussion from the board?
None.
Seeing none, make a motion to issue a determination of applicability. This is a positive 2A on the WPA and a +5, and a -3 on the local. No, -3 on WPA, and then a +2 on the bylaw. So +2A, +5, -3 on the WPA, -2 on the local. Which
Carol
means-
second.
Those are all answers you want, Josh.
Yeah, no, I'm familiar. Yeah.
Just for the record. So it's Caulfield's Carol second. Roll call vote.
Benson, I.
Carol, I.
Crossman, I.
Beatty, aye.
Caulfield's aye. Thank you for your patience, Josh.
Oh, thank you. Appreciate it.
Thank you. Next up is 41 Norton Avenue. This is a request for determination of applicability for repair of a residential septic system. We have long lost Peter Line.
How are we doing, everyone? Can you hear me?
Yep, I'm doing well.
Awesome. Let me pull the plan up for us. Should
Just
be.
introduce yourself for the record as well.
Yep. For the record, Peter Lyons with Collins Civil Engineering Group, representing the homeowner tonight at 41 Norton Ave. This is a request for determination of applicability relative to the repair of a failed residential septic. If you could just confirm that you see the plan.
We do, yep, thank you.
Awesome. Quick overview of the site. It's a about 3/4 acre lot. We have wetlands and a mean high water line associated with the stream delineated in the rear. The wetland line pretty much runs along the back lot line, giving us our 50-foot and 100-foot buffers that fall in the rear of the property. It's kind of tough to see, but the light blue lines, there's our 100-foot and the 200-foot cuts into the front yard. With this one, we are able to keep all the proposed work out of the 100-foot buffer. The existing leaching field is located in the backyard. That's going to be abandoned in place, so no earthwork associated with that, with the exception of digging up the distribution box and probably, clean that out and fill it with sand or something safe. But we're going to reroute the plumbing, and it's going to be a pump system. So there's going to be a 1,500-gallon septic tank and a 1,000-gallon pump chamber to a slightly elevated pipe and stone leaching field on the right side of the home. This, again, we're able to keep all the work outside of the buffers, and there's some significant boulders or even ledge outcrop in the front yard. So, the first place we looked at was out front in the lawn area. We just don't have enough space to make it work out there. So that's why it is just inside the 200-foot outer resource to the stream. But that's basically a maximum compliance thing. So we have erosion control proposed at the rear deck, wrapping around all the proposed work and ending along the existing fence. We've additionally proposed 5 conservation markers at approximately the 50-foot buffer. 2 of those located behind an existing fence. In red, we have shown a couple of piles of fill to be removed behind the existing fence as well. So that's about what we got going. Site access is going to occur from the front yard here. They'll have to take down some trees to gain access to it, I guess, but pretty straightforward on this one. Any questions from the commission?
Jennifer, I know there were some comments.
Yeah, just a couple things. At first, it looked like Wetland Protection Act was not applicable because all the work was outside the buffer zone, but just now you said you'd be filling in the D box. So that would include a determination under Wetland Protection Act. And you already have the application filled out. So the commission would just need to issue a -3 for WPA forms. They did make some requested changes to the plan. So that's good. There was a question Their application said they're asking for a waiver, but that it's also an exemption. It can't be both, and I don't think we got an answer for that. Which one are you asking for, Peter?
Honestly, I'm not really sure. I wasn't involved in that. So can you just repeat that again? That's a waiver to work within the buffer?
Your application says you're asking for a waiver and the project meets an exemption. The staff report said, which one is it? And then we didn't get a reply. So if you could look at the staff report, that would be helpful.
Sure.
Soil piles, we did also make a comment about the visual barrier markers hadn't been on the plan. They were added to the plan, but it looks like they're on the back of the fence. I sent the question back saying, do you think that is going to be effective on the back side of the fence? You know, there's a gate at the very back of the property, almost where the right there.
Right there, yeah.
When you walk out there, that's where you can see the path and some of the soil piles right near the wetland. So really the markers should be focused in that area to make sure that there's no more alteration in that spot. So you may want to revise the markers.
Okay, which one specifically? I mean, do we want to add some or?
What would be most helpful is when you're at the site, walking through the gate, thinking about where the markers should be.
Okay, I know, I mean, we generally try to keep them along the 50-foot anyways, so that's why those are proposed.
Mhm.
And
Yeah, I think we want them to be visual reminders to,
yeah,
when they go out the gate, because that's most of the way I would think that they're going to access behind the fence, that you want it to be right there in front of them that this is a wetland resource and no dumping or anything like that, right? So.
okay, I mean, if it's a matter of moving it a couple feet, you know, we can go and move out the stakes that are already out there for the proposed post locations. But
Yeah, I mean, I think that from my perspective, you're going to probably want to, considering that there's a bit of a violation on the property right now, that we want to be sure that we might have one when you turn right, when you turn left, and one right in front of you. So you may want to add two more to this thing, and they might be a little bit more closely grouped than you normally do.
yeah.
So anything else, Jennifer? So I have some questions obviously about that. So we're doing an RDA here. I think that other than the soil piles, I'm probably okay with this, but we've got these soil piles that are in the 50. And assuming that we can get these removed without disturbing too much thing, I'm not terribly concerned about that either. I know that the homeowner was trying to sort of manually do it over the weekend, but I think it's way too much for him to do. And I think he was trying to spread them out as opposed to removing them. So I think we've got to give some clear direction here on what we expect to get done, and as far as, you know, so that we can get them out of being in violation here. I mean, it was, you know, an inadvertent result of them doing some landscaping in the backyard where they leveled out their backyard. So I mean, do we have to we can put that condition on there? Well, I mean, how do we do that condition to allow them to do these soil piles on this?
You can put a condition on a determination, but typically you try not to do that because the determination says it's negative and there's no impact, but then you put conditions on it. It's confusing for the homeowner. But typically you can put one or two conditions without it being too confusing.
Right. Well, I think the homeowner is very aware of this, obviously. So since this was brought to their attention, so I mean, they've been pretty responsive, and he did come out and talk to me when I was out on site. So I do respect him for doing so. Do we have any other concerns? I mean,
You could add that and add a follow-up inspection.
okay.
They can call me for a follow-up.
Yeah, I mean, they should do whatever they can when they've got the machines on site to take care of those piles, If they're going to be trucking off material, they might as well truck off another, 10 cubic yards. Any questions from the commission? Any public comment on 41 Norton Avenue? Jacob Cohen has raised his hand. I'm just going to promote Jacob so he can ask this question. Jacob, you can turn on your camera and your microphone.
Thanks. Hi, everybody. My name is Jay O'Cohen. I just bought the property across the street from here at 40 Norton Ave, and I'm just trying to get an understanding of kind of what's going on here. And it seemed when I was kind of walking up or down the street, it seemed like the property, correct me if I'm wrong, maybe I just don't understand, it's just a novice homeowner here, that is downhill towards my property. Is there any assurances or maybe already surveyed information regarding water spillage from the failed septic across the street, or is it just the wetlands that is sort of in contamination?
So the wetlands likely are not contaminated by the failed system, and so because it's over 100 feet from the wetlands, what we're trying to do here is to make sure that when they repair the septic system, that they don't make any alterations to the wetland resources. So, I mean, that's really the issue here. The septic systems these days, and I am by no means a septic expert. I've only been doing this for 6 years. That's all I know about septics, is that they aren't like the cesspools of old where it was literally just a container. I mean, these are typically, they go out into a leaching field and the material is dissipated and the solids stay in the tanks and are taken from there. So whether they're pumped or whether they just dissipate naturally. So I don't know how this septic system failed. From my own personal experience, if the septic system failed to the degree where you felt like it was contaminating your property, you would know it.
Okay. Yeah, because the basement down there was pretty damp. I just took ownership.
You are in a damp part of town, to be quite honest.
Yeah.
You have a high water table. That's one of the reasons why this system will be mounted a couple of feet, so they have adequate separation between the bottom of the system and the groundwater. So.
Okay, great. I just got the notice, so I just wanted to double check that I wasn't in any danger or didn't have to scrutinize anything. But if you got, this seems pretty thought out, so I don't think I have any follow-up questions.
Very good. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, so any further comment? Jennifer, can we close and issue this negative with that condition? Okay.
You can. Yep.
Okay, so Peter, you want to close?
Yes, we would. Just to confirm, you're just looking for, I guess, the condition of the additional posts near the gate in the back.
And I'll also condition removal of those soil piles.
And a follow-up site inspection.
And with a follow-up site inspection associated with that. Okay, so do you want to close?
Yes, we would like to close, please.
Thank you. Motion to close 41 Norton Ave.
Carroll, second.
I'll call Phil Carroll second. Roll call, please.
Benson, aye.
Carroll, aye.
Grossman, aye.
Spady, aye.
Call Phil's aye. Any further discussion from the commission? So we'll issue a negative determination. That's what I'll make a motion on with a couple of conditions here as discussed. And a comment on one of the conditions. So make a motion to issue. So do I have to issue the WPA -2? -3?
From the discussion tonight, yes, a -3 on WPA.
Okay.
You may want to just do them separately. Motion.
Okay, thank you. Make a motion to issue negative determination under WPA -3.
Benson, second.
Caulfield's Benson, second. Roll call.
Benson, I.
Carroll, I.
Crossman, I.
Spady, aye.
Caulfield's aye. And -2 on the other one, right?
Correct.
Make a motion to issue a negative determination under the bylaw -2 with the condition that the applicant will provide an updated plan updating locations of the posts and adding 2 additional ones, along with a condition that the soil piles are removed, not just dispersed, and that the applicant will contact the office for a subsequent inspection to ensure conformance with that condition.
Crossman, second.
Caulfield's Crossman, second. Roll call.
Benson, I.
Carroll, I.
Crossman, I.
Spady, aye.
Caulfield's aye. Okay. Thank you, Peter.
All right, thank you. I believe that's all I have for you tonight.
We're gonna talk about 40 Elizabeth, just so you know.
40 Elizabeth. Okay.
It's the COC that we've got a little bit of issue with.
Okay. I can stick around for that.
Okay. I don't know that the issue is with you, to be quite honest. I'm just you as the one who was the representative originally. So.
Okay. I just didn't see it on the agenda, but that's fine.
Okay.
I'll stick around.
Thanks.
Yep.
Okay, so next up is 95 Belmont, but we have a request from the applicant to continue to 12/5.
12/19.
Oh,
They changed it.
sorry, 12/19.
Yep.
Christmas present for us all. 95 Belmont Street, make a motion to continue to 12/19.
Spady, second.
Benson,
Caulfield Spady, a second. Roll call vote.
Benson, I.
Carroll, I.
Crossman, I.
Spady, aye.
Caulfield's aye. 5-0 to continue. Next up is it's a continued hearing on a abbreviated notice of resource area delineation at 409, 413, 425 Turnpike Street. And I believe we have representatives of the applicant here.
Yes, good evening.
Brian and Tracy.
Development Permitting, I'm the principal of the firm with offices at 5 Bristol Drive in South Easton.
Okay.
I'm Tracy Dewar, civil engineer at MBL with Brian. We're here on behalf of Turnpike Street South LLC for the ANRAD filing for 409, 413, 425 Turnpike Street. We opened the hearing a couple weeks ago and just introduced the project. We just received some comments from Jennifer. So since the last hearing, we've met with her on site with our botanist to go over some areas she had some concerns and comments on. We adjusted some sections of the wetland flag boundary, and we also had the potential vernal pool on site delineated. And then we've gone back and we've updated our ANRAD plan to show these areas and the local and state bylaws and buffers, or bylaw buffers as well. I can share that plan if you'd like, Mr. Chair.
That would be great. Thank you.
So this is the revised plan. I believe they adjusted some flagging in this area here. So wetlands flag 8A was connected to 14, and the other flags that were in here have been eliminated. We've also added this potential vernal pool, and the bylaw, the resource area boundary, as well as the 100-foot and 200-foot buffers into that.
Okay, I'll get to my question when I get there.
There's not too much else unless anyone has any more questions, or Jennifer has anything she'd like to go over.
Jennifer?
Just note that wetland flag 19 up at the very top wasn't on the previous plan. It's now been added as requested. Tracy, I don't know if you can see my cursor or not, but if not, Tracy, if you would take a look at the wetland fill area where the wetland line had been adjusted and the other flags removed. Yeah, just take a look in that area just for the commission's information. That is filled with gravel and does appear to be wetland fill. Otherwise, the wetland boundary does appear to be correct. I did go out and look at the boundary of the vernal pool today. That looks accurate as well. So I have no further questions.
So just as a point of clarification on my part here, so the potential vernal pool is the dark shaded part, and then the lined part outside of that is that's the edge of the vernal pool, right?
Yes, under the bylaw, it's 100 feet out.
That's 100 feet from the mean high water of that vernal pool, and then we have a 100-foot resource area beyond that.
Yep.
And so, but then on this map, there's another 100-foot, but that's not under the bylaw. I know we get a little confused. Everybody thinks it's a 200-foot buffer zone. It's actually a 100-foot buffer zone, but we add 100-foot onto the resource area itself.
All right, so this line essentially could come out.
Jennifer, am I wrong on that?
I thought it was adding another 100 feet because it's in the area of critical environmental concern.
Oh, maybe.
That's my understanding as well, Mr.
You know what? I think you're right. Yeah. So.
All right.
Because we're in an ACEC, right?
That's correct. Yep.
We did add the note referencing that we're in the ACEC to the plan.
Right, and I think actually, Jennifer, you wrote that up somewhere, so I appreciate that. Okay, so the issue here is when we issue the ORAD, do we issue the enforcement order on the issue with the fill over by wetland flag 4 to 8 or whatever the number is?
Well, can we discuss the enforcement order, Mr. Chairman? Because it was my understanding that I guess one letter went out to the new owner of the property, and it was told to us that he did not do this alteration. This was already there when he purchased the property. So, so I guess based on my discussions with Mike, it looks like the onus is really on the other people's who sold the property to him, which was the people who were operating this as a greenhouse. So I don't know, because there's been no activity on Mike's behalf over here, to the best of my knowledge. So I don't know how we can address this enforcement order, other than, making note of it when we do propose a project here and addressing, some type of reestablishment of this area as part of the notice of intent.
So Jennifer, can you just clarify for me? I mean, it was always my understanding that the condition stood with the owner of the land, not necessarily when it happened.
It is with the property.
Okay.
It's irrelevant who actually did.
I think you're saying what I said in a more elegant manner. So yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, it's actually irrelevant. The Wetland Protection Act says fill left in place is an ongoing violation, regardless of who did it. The commission has 3 years from the time of sale of a property to notify a new owner that there is a violation in place. And there's been case law that supports. Any fill left in place is an ongoing violation and could go under an enforcement order. But if you're saying that the current owner is aware of it and willing to work with the commission to address that in whatever future plans they're proposing, that is helpful. And the enforcement order is just to preserve the commission's ability to act under the act and under the bylaw.
So just to be clear to the applicant, there's no civil penalty that we would issue at this time related to the enforcement order. There isn't like there's a finer penalty that happens because there's a violation on the site. If it's not addressed, we may go down that road, but that's part of the enforcement order process. And given our experience here, I think it's best that we, put an enforcement order out there. It's strictly a statement of fact as opposed to a negative implication, especially since you're telling us that you're willing to take care of it. I think that's all we want.
We as their agent, we understand, based on the plan that we prepared, that there's been some historic alteration at some point in time with this wetland resource area. We see that, we recognize that. So the way to get around this is not necessarily to get around it, but to address it, head on, is say, okay, whatever we're proposing, at this site, because I don't know what it is going to be just yet, because we've got multiple things happening at the same time, so I don't really know which road the development will go down. But as part of it, the reassurance from my office and my staff, we will be showing, some type of restoration that this area is, because it's clearly been altered. So I agree. It would be something that, even if we filed a notice of intent, Mr. Chairman, members of the commission, we would have filed it, and then you would have said, okay, well, I want restoration for those areas that have been altered. So then we would have to address it at that point in time anyways. So I think that we're actually on the same page, other than the fact that we want to issue an enforcement order to simply protect our rights regarding the area that needs to be restored. The idea here is that we're going to issue an enforcement order. You're going to file a notice of intent. You're going to take care of it. The only difference between that and what you said is we're issuing an enforcement order, which is a letter from Jennifer to you, understanding that you're going to submit a notice of intent, okay, that includes a restoration area. And if you don't, then we'll come back to you and have a further conversation. Right. I just want to make sure that we didn't want to start finding the owner of the property at this point in time.
So if you're working with us, we have no intent of issuing fines. None.
Perfect. Then we're on the same boat, going down the same river. Perfect. Thank you very much.
But I will say, if you're ignoring us, then we're going to contact you to get you back here so we can talk to you, and then we can figure out where to go. And then if you ignore us more, then we have to get pretty upset with you to start issuing civil penalties.
Well, I don't need you or Jennifer being upset with any of my staff. So
that's not our nature anyway. So
we've got a long track record, so it's and we want to keep that in place, and we say what we do what we say. So Mr.
Great.
Chairman, members of the commission, we'd like you to close the public hearing, issue an ORAD for this project, so we can start moving forward. And if so be it, is that the enforcement order is issued, we will make sure that Mr. Ahern is fully aware of the implications of not doing what we said we're supposed to do.
Very good. That's where we're trying to get to.
Yeah.
Understood. Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman.
So the enforcement order can just say that you'll file a notice of intent within a year, right? And then, things change, right? You say you're gonna, submit a plan and a notice of intent, but you get held back for 6 months or something, right? So that's just to preserve the commission's rights. And then if that changes, as long as we're within the 3 years, that enforcement order can be revised if we know you're working on it and you're coming in with a plan.
Perfect. Thank you, Jennifer.
Okay, thank you.
Any other comments from the commission? Questions? Okay, I do see. We'll go to public comment because I see somebody who has a. I think it must be the landowner. Let me just promote him. I have you as Mike A, but you might be Mr. Ahern, so you can turn on your video and audio.
My camera is down, so hopefully you can hear me.
Yep.
Okay.
Can you just introduce yourself for the record? That'd be great.
Yeah, I'm Michael Ahern. I'm the property owner.
Okay.
So yeah, I agree wholeheartedly with what Brian said. I guess the only question I have is when was the violation written on the property? Because I did my research before I bought it, and there was no violation, so I wasn't aware of an issue. But clearly, the guy had been using for 25, 30 years before me, and I wasn't aware of the issue at all. So I got one letter, I made the call, and I never received a return call. And I agree with Brian, and we can make it part of the scope of work. But I'm just curious for my own records, when was the violation issued to the previous owner so that you could make me aware of it?
I think one letter went out last November, maybe. Then another one out, I think maybe in December. Then we found out the property had changed hands and sent another letter maybe in February.
Okay.
There are a few letters that went out. It's not anything that's recorded on the deed, and there were no inquiries made to the conservation office when the property changed hands, so no other way of alerting somebody.
I made inquiries when the property changed hands at the conservation office, and I was told there was no outstanding violations. But it's news to me. I wasn't. If they were served, they never told me. And I received only one letter since I've owned the property.
Okay.
But I agree with Brian. We're going to do our best to put things back the way they should be.
Thank you.
Agreed. Thank you. Anything else?
No, that's it for me.
Thank you.
I'm also, Mr. Chairman. Thank you very much, members of the commission.
Any other comments from the commission before we go to close? Seeing none, we'll make a motion to close 409, 413, 425 Turnpike.
Benson second.
Caulfield's Benson second. Roll call vote.
Benson, aye.
Carroll, aye.
Crossman, aye.
Spady, aye.
Caulfield's aye. So 5-0 to close. Any further comments? So we'll issue the ORAD along with the enforcement order notifying them. We expect a notice of intent within 1 year. And obviously,
and we'll get that recorded and then get the information up to Jennifer as soon as possible.
You're going to record something?
The ORAD? Don't we have to record the ORAD? Okay. Perfect. Even better.
Anything else, Jennifer? Okay.
No, you have a draft that was in your packet.
Yep. So make a motion to issue a order of resource area delineation for 419, 413, 425 Turnpike Street. And then we'll vote on the enforcement order following this. Okay. I need a second.
Second.
Benson with a second. Roll call vote.
Benson, aye.
Carroll, aye.
Crossman, aye.
Spady, aye.
Caulfield's aye. In accordance as well as previously discussed, we'll issue an enforcement order for 419, 413, 425 related to some fill in area related to wetland flag 4 to 8 in the rear property. Understanding the applicant will submit an NOI that will include a restoration of that area within 1 year.
Spady, a second.
Caulfield, Speedy, a second. Roll call vote.
Benson, aye.
Carroll, aye.
Crossman, aye.
Spady, aye.
Caulfield's aye. Okay. Thank you very much, Mr. Dunn and Ms. Duarte. I appreciate it.
Thank you so much. Bye now, everybody.
Bye-bye.
Excuse me, please. Who seconded that motion?
On the enforcement order was Benson.
Thank you.
Okay, so next up is 46 Rockland Street. I believe we have Mr. Gottwald with us as a representative of the homeowner. You can turn on your video, audio, Mr. Gottwald. Okay, oh, there we go. Hang on. Are you also on your phone? No.
How about now?
Yeah, you were good.
I had both on because I was having a problem with the iPad, so I apologize for that.
No problem.
So here I am. I don't have, can you pull the plan up on your screen?
I can. If I can find which one it's in.
There's a few plans there. The latest one is revised 11/18, it should say on the plan.
No, it's just me making sure I'm pulling up the right window, that's all. Just 1 second. Hang on.
Sure.
Okay, let's get to the right plan. Of course, I don't have it here.
Nope.
Yeah, no, hang on a second.
Okay.
I don't think I pulled this plan, so because I'd already been to the property. So let me just go to the site, pull it down. The one time someone asked me for something, I don't know. I swear this is not my first time doing it.
No one's complaining because you've got the plan. No one else is jumping. I have it. I have it.
Yeah, hang on. Okay, I just need to share the right screen now. It'll be okay. Okay, hopefully you can see that. I'm just going to blow it up here.
Yes.
Okay. We'll start there.
Okay, so I was in a couple weeks ago. We talked a couple weeks ago. I needed to add some more information, and I hope I have addressed everything there. Since the last plan, I don't know if anybody even looked at it, but I downsized the size of the leaching. This plan is to put in a new septic system. So I downsized the size of the leaching area using chambers, which gives you a reduction in the area. I moved it as far away from any resource area as I could while keeping it on the property and meeting property line setbacks from the existing house. So basically where it is the only place it can fit on the property, with the least impact on the wetlands area. Beyond all the buffer zones, I believe I'm 50 feet beyond everything. I kept my siltation control outside the 50-foot buffer. There was a potential vernal pool there. I'm beyond 100 feet from that, but in addition to that, when I reviewed the area, it was saying that if any of this lot was built in 1979, so if any of the area was lawn and stuff was developed prior to, I think it was 2004, then that would be considered the barrier for that. So I showed that on the plan, and there is a stream next door. We are out of the 100-foot, less than 200 feet, but I think it's about 150 feet to the leaching area. And the tanks are a little bit closer. Okay, actually it's on the plan. It's 142 feet to the leaching area and 118 feet to the tanks. From the last plan too, I revised the access to the property to come in on the if you're looking at it from the street, on the right-hand side of the property. And I guess this particular house has quite a few resource areas that come under your jurisdiction in this one little lot, as you can see. But that's pretty much it. Any questions? It'd be easier for me to answer your questions, I think, than kind of explain it all.
Bill, if you would just point out the floodplain.
The floodplain is the green line there, which it comes in the front corner there, and it appears to be a part of the corner of the house, and then it goes off to the back. I just scaled it as best I could off the maps.
Great, thank you.
Yeah.
So all the plan revisions that I had requested are now completed, except for the stamp. Were you able to?
Yes. As soon as he returns that to me, I will bring you a couple copies. I'll download it and bring you a couple of hard copies.
Okay, just one hard copy is fine.
Okay, you sure?
Yeah, thank you.
Okay. Yeah.
The activity is more than 100 feet from the vernal pool, which meets Title V. And you submitted a revised narrative so that you addressed each performance standard and showed how the project meets the performance standard. So I don't have any other questions.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So any questions from the commission? So there's two things. One is, Jennifer, do we need so is this a 100-foot buffer to the vernal pool, or is that the 100-foot boundary to the vernal pool?
Oh, actually, that's probably the 100-foot boundary to the vernal pool.
Right. So the boundary of the vernal pool is going to be cut off by the lawn, but then the buffer zone actually still exists. So we're missing the buffer zone on the potential vernal pool.
I can show that, but I can show that it is just beyond just beyond that 100-foot. If you extend that curve, you'll see. I took it off because when I read closely, I guess I got confused with the boundary and the buffer.
No, I think so I just want to be clear here. So the way that the local bylaw works is that the boundary of the vernal pool is not the mean high water line, which is what it is under the state law. It is it's 100 feet from the mean high water line. That's the actual boundary of the vernal pool, and then the buffer zone actually goes off of there. So this boundary is actually correct.
Okay.
Because where the lawn is, your reading of it was correct. Where the pre-disturbed area does cut off the boundary of the vernal pool, but the buffer zone still exists beyond the 100 feet. Now, that doesn't mean that we can't allow it during that in that area. We just
can I so I understand. So would you, looking at this particular, where would you say the buffer is? Where is the buffer? I mean,
so I'd say probably
100 foot beyond my 100 foot.
Yes, exactly.
Oh, okay.
So I mean, you're talking somewhere. It's going to go like this, Now, the house is going to be in the 100-foot or close to
Sure,
it.
okay. Yeah, oh yeah, almost a whole lot, actually.
Yeah, I mean, the septic system is going to be in the 100-foot buffer, but that's yes, it is. It's just a resource area that should be on the map or on the plan. The other thing is there a buffer zone to the floodplain here, Jennifer, we have to worry about?
There should be a buffer zone to the floodplain. I don't see it. It's going to overlap.
Yeah, no, believe me, this is it'll be different. Yes, as Mr. Gottwald pointed out, there is buffer zones crisscrossing all over the place here. So I don't think it changes. I don't think it changes the plan per se, and I don't think it changes the way we approach it, given the lot and everything else, and given where the siltation control is. So, do we have a waiver on this, right? No. Yes. No.
No.
No. Okay.
No, because he's more than 50 feet from everything he needs to be.
Okay. So can we, since he owes you plans, can we just have him upgrade the plans and have the new one signed by whoever has to sign them? Does that seem reasonable, Jennifer?
Yes.
Okay. I'm sorry, I'm looking off to the left here, but
yeah, that's okay.
You're in one of my 3 screens here. That I need to stack them vertically, I think. So, any other questions from the commission? Okay. Any public comment for 46 Rockland Street? Okay, so seeing none, Mr. Gottwald, do you want us to close?
That would be great. Thank you.
So just to sort of make sure that you understand, so we're going to close. We'll vote to close, and then if we close, we'll vote to issue a permit in order conditions. And but it will be conditional upon you making the 2 updates to the buffer zones on the plan and getting new copies to Jennifer. Okay.
Yeah. So the buffer zone for the
buffer zone for the floodplain and the buffer zone for the potential vernal pool.
Okay, that's what I thought. I just wanted to make sure.
Yep, I'll say that. I will say that in the motion. Okay, so it's clear.
Thank you.
Make a motion to close 46 Rockland Street.
Second.
Caulfield's Benson second. Roll call vote.
Benson, aye.
Carol, aye.
Crossman, aye.
Spady, aye.
Caulfield's aye. Any further discussion from the commission? Make a motion to issue a permit for work order conditions, noting that the plans need to be updated to include a buffer zone for potential vernal pool and the floodplain. I'm also noting the additional conditions of removing material in the wetland resources, as noted by Jennifer previously in staff reports.
Second.
And copy of those plans must be delivered to Jennifer in a timely manner. Yes. Second by Crossman. Caulfield Crossman second. Roll call.
Benson, aye.
Carol, aye.
Crossman, aye.
Spady, aye.
Caulfield's aye. Thank you, Mr. Gottwald.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. So next up is 91 Union, but we have a request from the applicant to continue to 12/5. Is that correct?
Correct.
So I'll make a motion to issue a continuance for 91 Union Street till I can continue to 12/5.
Carol, second.
Didn't need to be. Caulfield's Carol second. Roll call vote.
Benson, aye.
Carol, aye.
Crossman, aye.
Spady, aye.
Caulfield's aye. Next up is 464 Foundry. We also have a continuance 12/5 still?
Correct.
Okay. Make a motion to continue 464 Foundry Street to 12/5.
Benson, second.
Caulfield's Benson second. Roll call.
Benson, aye.
Carol, aye.
Crossman, aye.
Spady, aye.
Caulfield's aye. Next up, we have a certificate of compliance for 68 Purchase Street. I think I saw Mr. Pilling in the attendees. Oh, there he is.
Hello?
Yep, you're there. You can turn on your video too, if you can. There you go.
There you
Perfect.
go. I am here. I'm representing the owner at 68 Purchase Street. This is to get a certificate of compliance for an order of conditions that was issued back in 1988.
Nice.
It belonged to his parents. His father had gotten the order of conditions when they built the house. And his father passed away. His mother lived there up until this year when she passed away, and now he was selling it. And this is the first he found out about it.
It's the way it always happens.
So
those pesky real estate attorneys.
we went out, took a look at it.
To happen.
Exactly. No, believe me, that's exactly. This is our last defense.
So we.
I'm just gonna. I have the plans here, so I'm just gonna share it so people can see what's going on here. Unless you want to do it.
I don't have the stuff with me, so.
Oh. So we're once again thankful that I have them.
Ah.
Okay, so there we are.
There we are, and the plan shows what's there, and actually a picture I had sent in, 1990 aerial picture. It's the same as it was back in 1990. So anything that was done was apparently done back when they built the house. I showed a wetland line that we had Steve Ivers delineate in 2008 when they were looking as to whether they could do anything more, because the total lot is 4 acres. But you'll notice that piece of wetlands there kind of chewed into it, and then there's a piece of wetlands on the other side that also chewed into the lot. So it never went any further than that at that time. So it's a lawn from the driveway all the way down to the edge of the woods that we have along there.
Yep.
And that, so that's what we have.
Jennifer, any comments?
Just the staff report noted a much larger area that had been cleared right up to the wetland than what was permitted, and that the buffer zone markers had not been installed. Bruce and I went out to look at where the markers might be installed, but we didn't actually finalize that until the commission had looked at the as-built plan and made a decision about the excess clearing that had been done.
So is the intention to put wetland markers at the edge of the current lawn, or are we talking about putting it farther out somewhere, splitting the distance or something?
Well, when we talked about it, it was going to be kind of at the edge, with strategically located where there had been some not fill, but yard waste put in there, so they wouldn't do it again. It's like you talked about earlier with one of the others, is you kind of want to make it very clear. You don't want to go any further than that.
Right.
And we would put them all along, about a half a dozen of them along just outside the edge of woods, because it's all lawn there now.
Jennifer, any feedback on that proposal?
Yeah, I mean, that would certainly work if the commission's not looking to require any restoration.
Any discussion from the commission on where we'd like the buffer zone markers?
Can you explain the options again?
So I think the options are, I mean, there's a variety of options, right? So this curly line here, that's the edge of the woods, right? And
Yeah.
there's some landscape areas here that have trees and stuff in them. That's what these landscape islands are. And then this is the 50-foot buffer zone, which is about normally, we did it earlier at 41 Norton, this is about where we would normally put a buffer zone marker, right? No disturb zone. This is supposed to be no disturb zone. So over the years, this is obviously creep, but I think that Mr. Pilling noted that it happened within a year or two of building the house that they expanded the lawn beyond the 50-foot wetland buffer zone. And so there was some disturbance, mainly disposal of lawn materials, leaves and grass clippings and whatnot, in some of these areas here, from what I could tell. So the proposal is to have the buffer zone markers along the current edge of lawn, and leave the lawn as lawn, or we could choose to put them anywhere we want between edge of lawn and probably up to the 50-foot wetland buffer zone. That's really our option and our decision. And obviously we could then, if we felt like the lawn needed to be restored to a more naturalized condition, we could deal with that as well. Those are the questions Jennifer is asking us to decide. Diplomatically, so.
One of the landscaped islands is full of an invasive species, if that helps with your discussion.
What species, if you don't mind me asking?
Japanese barberry.
Nice. That's not very good.
It was probably planted back in 88 or 89.
Right, this hasn't been touched, has it?
And they kept it trimmed. You know, it's. I don't think anything's been done since they built the house other than keeping the lawn cut. It's been well cared for.
So any other feedback from the commission? So if we had to determine it tonight, and we have to determine it tonight, preferably, where do we want the markers? Can I get some suggestion?
Probably right over that lawn, right where it should be, really.
Where's that, Mike?
To the right, yeah, kind of where the cursor's going there. Yeah. You see it to the right side of the two islands there, but like basically the driveway line.
I mean, I kind of think because of the existing lawn and that structure off the back, it sort of makes sense to have it to the left of the islands.
Left of
it. Left of these two islands?
Yeah.
So over the road.
So you're talking about like doing something like this?
I am. Does that not make sense?
It's a suggestion.
Yeah.
And
I mean, I'm open to some feedback. I'm just thinking.
I think from my standpoint, and I know that it's hard in a property that's been a long-standing use at 30 plus years to change it. I had sort of thrown out the idea of sort of splitting the difference, which is a little bit of what Ben is suggesting, is get it off of the woodland edge, and maybe take a little bit back. And the question is, do we simply let it naturalize, or do we have them plant seed mix, or what do we do? Or we have them plant trees or bushes or anything along those lines. I don't know how long it would take lawn to go back to naturalized area.
I don't think the naturalized wouldn't be all that bad. I mean, if you don't mow it for a season, it'll get pretty tall. They'll at least kind of aid to field mice, which kind of is a natural progression to other better things for what that land will become. I mean, and kind of cost effective too. So
yeah, I would say split the difference and let it naturalize. That would be my
like that
suggestion.
I got some head nods to that. So
I agree verbally.
Thank you. So Jennifer, I think that's probably the commission's preference here, is that we do it not necessarily exactly where I put it, but in that range. That's why I put the annotations on here to give some sense that we could all, I think we needed to put dots on there to see what we were talking about. So, so do we need to have a new plan, or can we issue the certificate and do that? Or should we hold off on issuing the certificate until we do this? What is the timing on the sale of the home?
It's waiting for this to have an answer. And then they'll go ahead with it knowing what the answer is. Even if you give us a certificate with conditions to do something, we would do what has to be done.
So I don't know, can we issue a certificate with conditions?
You can issue a partial certificate with conditions, and I'm assuming that the attorneys would have some sort of holdback on cash until they get the final certificate.
Okay.
I'd be willing to go out with Jennifer again and we'll actually put stakes before we go put the post in.
Yeah, I mean, that would be the best approach for sure. So I think that's probably what we do is get a partial certificate with the instructions to get the buffer zone markers in place, agreement with Jennifer prior to installing them. Does that sound good to everybody?
Yeah.
Okay, I got a lot of nods here, including Jennifer and Bruce. So, I will. Any public comment on 68 Purchase Street? So seeing none, I make a motion to issue a partial certificate of compliance for 68 Purchase Street, noting that buffer zone markers will be located in the field with the agent and installed in a timely manner.
Carol, second.
Carol was faster, but Benson was first, so call Benson second.
It's fair. Strict, tough, but fair. You know, Rory.
Roll call vote.
Benson, aye.
Carol, aye.
Grossman, aye.
Spady, aye.
Caulfield's aye. Okay, thank you very much, Mr. Pilling.
Thank you. I'll get in touch with Jennifer probably tomorrow.
Thank you.
Huh?
Okay, so we are to 40 Elizabeth Way. I'm just going to bring Peter up just in case we have questions. But I think most of the conversation is probably about with us. So this is a certificate of compliance for 40 Elizabeth Way. It was a repair of a septic system done about a year and a half ago, I think. And I can bring up the plans just so that we have some topics to sort of talk about. And I'm sure that Peter just spent the last hour reviewing the plan.
You're going to pull it up, you said?
Yeah, I'll pull it up. So the outstanding issue here, if you don't mind, Jennifer, you mind if I step in and say what the outstanding issue is? Okay. And just for the record, I've done 2 site visits on this piece of property in the past month to see the status of the work. So what's happening? So we've actually, so the work was actually done up front, but what we found when we were issuing the permit is that there was a substantial amount of materials dumped into the wetland adjacent area and likely into the wetland itself here, right around wetland flag 11. And additionally, there was some trees that had been taken down. I don't know if it was storm damage or others that was laying into the woods here, as well as a whole bunch of brush and everything else here. And so we were trying to get the applicant to take care of this. It was actually part of the conditions of the permit was to remove this material from here and get it out of the wetlands and the buffer zone. And to be quite honest, up until about a month ago, the applicant had done almost nothing. Had taken the position that as it was relayed to me. I actually never spoke to the applicant. I only spoke to Mr. Collins. And that was natural material, and there really wasn't an issue with it. I don't mean to oversimplify it, but that's sort of how it was described to me. And I think that within the last month, I will say that all the debris that was over here in this area is gone. Every bit of it. The brush is gone. The branches are gone. The down trees are gone. It's all removed. It was cleaned up nice and tidy. In fact, he had stacked the wood, and I think he's probably seasoning it and going to burn it in his wood stove. Okay, so I think that that's all taken care of. And I will say that originally when I was there on Saturday of this week, there was still material in that buffer zone and partially in the, I don't have exactly where the wetland is, but based upon where it is off of the post, probably right on the edge of the wetland or in the wetland. But until I got back to my computer and compared photos, I thought that he had only done half of the work, meaning he had taken care of the brush. I will say, and I don't know, I sent some pictures to Jennifer to try and get some feedback too. It does look like some material has been removed. Is it enough material or not? I can show a couple of pictures that will help people or not to sort of understand. That might be helpful to everybody for me to do that. I can do that. And so that's really the issue here is, do we issue a certificate of compliance at this point? Do we issue a partial certificate, or do we deny the certificate of compliance and make him do it and come back again when it's done? And then there's a fourth option, which is deny it and go to an enforcement order. Okay, so I just want to lay everything out here about what our real options are. Issue for full certificate of compliance, issue a partial certificate of compliance, issue a denial, issue a denial with an enforcement order. I think that's about our choices. Jennifer, did I miss something? That's about it, right?
That sounds right.
Okay, so I'm going to bring up some pictures to help us here. And I'm just going to have to open this. I had sent them to Jennifer, so let me just see if I can open that email instead. So I'm going to start with what it looked like a month ago. Okay. I think that'll help. Okay, so this is what it looked like a month ago. Okay, so you can see the big pile of leaves back here. There's some stumps and some other materials and whatnot. And it goes a fair bit of distance in. I mean, that's probably about 15 feet from the best I can tell. Okay. Now, let me just sort of scroll back here. That's the brush and stuff from a month ago. And so this is what it looks like today. So that's from Saturday. That's that same area that had that big pile of leaves and whatnot. And so you can see that a lot of the material that it's not nearly as high as it was. And it probably, I don't know if it's actually been reseeded at all as much as he took the stuff off the top. That's that area that had all that wood in it before the brush and everything else. That's all obviously been cleared out. You can see he's stacked all the wood. I mean, there's another picture here. This is another picture, and sorry for the glare. The sun is so terrible this time of year. This is a little bit of me going to the edge of the area. This is the wetland itself right down here. This is the edge. of that material. Okay? Any questions about that? So this is what it looks like today. This is what it looked like a month ago, 5 weeks ago. And you can see here in this picture too, this was from a month ago. You can see how it was a pile before. It's no longer a pile, right? I think it probably still extends out as much as it did before, maybe a little bit less, but it didn't look like a terrible amount. But it did look like there was actively work. You could see that it was sort of dug up, like he looked like he was actively even working that area that was closest to the wetland. So, any questions, concerns?
And so we're concerned about the pile on the right being the work has begun but is not completed.
So I don't think he's in full compliance with the order conditions. I think that that's probably the assessment that I would make, that he was supposed to remove all that material. He's probably got about another 5 cubic yards maybe of material he needs to remove. That would be my guess. I think he's probably taken out 5 or 10 cubic yards already. But and he's still in the process of doing it. And I will say, it's a little challenging because we haven't heard from the homeowner, right? I think the only person who's talked to the homeowner recently within the last couple of months is probably Mr. Collins. And so, you know, I don't know. Originally, the homeowner didn't want to do anything. I was very clear in my conversations that this wasn't an option. This wasn't optional. This was a requirement, and that we would go to an enforcement order if necessary to take care of it. The message must have gotten back to the homeowner and said, okay, I have to do something about it. So from that perspective, that's really where we stand on this. So the question is there enough to issue a partial certificate? Is there enough to issue a full certificate? Do we deny the certificate? Do we deny the certificate with enforcement order? The cleanest way to do this probably, and to sort of keep the homeowner on track without escalating this to a level of potentially, what is it, Jennifer's got something to say.
I'm just thinking there's one more option, that since he's working on it and very close, you postpone it another meeting and see how far it goes. Yeah, I haven't heard anything from the homeowner or from Collins to know that they were working on it. So those pictures are great. That shows that there is progress.
Right. Yeah, I agree. I'll be quite honest. I was surprised, since we hadn't heard from anybody, that it was that dramatic a change. And to be honest, I saw the one side was very dramatic. I didn't think the pile was that dramatic until I got home and looked at the pictures. And that's, I guess that's one of the reasons why I take pictures at almost every site visit I go to, because I don't know what it changes to from time to time. But so I guess we could postpone it and say, you know, we'll see where we are in a couple of weeks. Anything beyond, I think even 4 weeks from now, they're not going to have much availability to really do anything manually. I assume it's being done manually at this point. I think probably he throws the material into his truck and takes it off somewhere. So from that perspective, that's one of our options. You know, the other option is to deny it and have him come back when he's ready. That's the other option. What happens with that option is he's got another filing fee if he does that. I think it's $100 for a certificate of compliance.
Seems like there's like good faith, you know, on the homeowner's part. It'd be nice, I guess, if he or she could tell us what the plan was, but maybe delaying it is you know, they could have been there today, I guess, depending on the timeline. If everything looked like it had been going on, looked like they were working that day, the shovels and axes were out. So I don't know. I mean, it'd be nice if there was some communication, I guess. That makes it a little tougher.
That would be very nice, wouldn't it? Yeah. I mean,
I would say, yeah.
I personally don't think this is a situation for a partial, because it's not as though a portion of the work is completed. You know, that things either are or aren't out of where they're supposed to be. So I'd be in favor of a continuance to the next meeting and some type of communication with the understanding that, yeah, I don't know how everyone else feels, but I would see it as a denial at this point.
So I think, Peter, if you could maybe go back to your customer and through George or whatever, and you can have George reach out to me or Jennifer so it's clear. But I think that we'll postpone it for another 2 weeks. I'd say that we should be hearing from the homeowner at this point to understand what his plan is to finalize this. I would like to communicate that was evident to us that progress has been made in the past 5 weeks, and that's very much appreciated. What we need now, just on top of that, is a little bit of communication on what the timeline is. Does he expect to have it? He or she expect to have it completed in 2 weeks, in 4 weeks? What is it? I don't want to have this hang out for a long time. I think that Mr. Carroll's recommendation is probably the alternative of lack of communication of a timeline, is to just deny it and have him come back when he's ready, which I really don't want to do. I don't want to do it for you. I don't want to do it for him, especially since he's making progress. That was some pretty significant progress in 5 weeks, to be quite honest. Unexpected and happily unexpected. So.
Okay, and I apologize. Honestly, I wasn't aware of this on the agenda, so I have no updated information. I tried to make a call, over the last hour, but I couldn't get any answers. So we can definitely look into that. The continuance would be appreciated. As mentioned, he's making improvements. Hopefully we can just, get this through the goalpost by the next meeting, and the commission is satisfied with the work that's been done.
Agreed. Any public comment, 40 Elizabeth Way? Covering all my bases. I say it all the time. So we will postpone the decision on the certificate of compliance for 40 Elizabeth Way until December 5th. Please noting that we would like an update from the applicant, the homeowner, regarding a timeline here. So, we might go out another 2 weeks after that if that's what he needs to get it done. But at some point, we've got to make a decision here.
Understood.
So, I need a second on my motion to continue to 12.
Benson, second.
Caulfield's Benson, second. Roll call.
Benson, aye.
Carroll, aye.
Crossman, aye.
Beatty, aye.
Caulfield's aye. Thanks, Peter, for hanging around. Appreciate it. And
all right. Thanks. We'll see you next time.
Thanks. Okay. Next up is 785 Washington Street.
They've requested a continuance to 12/5.
Make a motion to continue 785 Washington Street. Just before I do that, since I didn't announce it, is there any public comment on 785 Washington Street? Okay, seeing none. Make a motion to continue 785 Washington to 12/5.
Carroll, second.
Caulfield's Carroll, second. Roll call.
Benson, aye.
Carroll, aye.
Crossman, aye.
Beatty, aye.
Caulfield's aye. Jennifer, 55 Pequannock.
Just an update that we received the estimate for the amount of work and that we sent out the draft surety agreement, and I have not received it back yet.
Okay. Should we talk about the tree that was down in the pond?
Oh, sure.
So I don't know if everybody had a chance to watch the video that Mr. Newberger sent in about a tree, pretty substantially tall. I'd say it's probably about 40 or 50 feet that is landed in the pond. It's probably about a 12-inch diameter, I would guess. And he was asking for permission to remove that tree from the pond and edge of the pond, or work with his neighbor. I think it's his neighbor's tree that fell into the pond. And I personally didn't have a problem with him removing the tree. I'd say, given the location of the dam, I'm just afraid of materials eventually catching up on the tree and backing up and causing other problems. I mean, it's possible to leave it there and just let it be a natural feature that would happen out in the woods if it was there in a pond. But, you know, given that it's the dam, I tend to sort of be a little bit more cautious of trying not to leave something in there that could, you know, jam up the dam and potentially cause damage. So that's my only concern is the dam. If this was a pond, I'd probably just leave it. But anybody else?
I was also okay with removing the tree. I just want to, I don't know if we could say, you know, not with an excavator. So some reasonable limitation on the types of tools that can be used to pull it out and where to actually process it.
They could just
that might even be too detailed.
They can just limit from end to end with the saw and then just pull from the back, right? Or you just want to have them dump half the middle of it in the pond anyway. Just let it just sink.
I'd probably have them just pull it all out to the one side. It looks like they probably could pull it out the one way, but onto his neighbor's lawn, probably.
I mean, you can tell him it's okay to remove, but give us the details of how it will be done.
Yeah, and I don't even think it has to be like hand tools, right? Like I think you want to pull it out with something great. I just would, you know, rather.
Yeah, I don't want you going in with something there. That's the question.
Yeah, no, they shouldn't have to. I think cut it end to end chainsaw and pull just by hand. You'll get it out. That shouldn't be.
I think you're absolutely right.
Yeah, it should be fine.
Okay, so I think that Jennifer, I think that, you know, we're okay with him removing that tree. I think he should check with you on how it's done. You know, give you how it's going to do, and I'll let you make the decision whether it's appropriate or not. So.
Jennifer, you have a new job.
Go get your chainsaw sharpened.
I took that class earlier this year.
All right. Okay. Minutes. Let's talk about the regular meeting minutes for October 17th first. Anybody have any comments? Okay, so I had no comments, so I make a motion to accept the October 17th minutes as written.
Spady, second.
Caulfield, Spady, second. Roll call.
Benson, aye.
Carol, aye.
Grossman, aye.
Spady, aye.
Caulfield's aye. November 7th, anybody?
No problem.
So just there's a motion under the first item, motion to continue. It says made a motion to continue 91 Union Street. The project is actually 95 Belmont Street. We just need to update that. So the initial motion to continue for 95 Belmont, just update the project address.
Second.
Okay. Caulfield's Crossman second for approving the minutes with the amendment. Roll call vote.
Benson, aye.
Carol, aye.
Grossman, aye.
Spady, aye.
Okay, so we had talked about potentially looking at releasing some executive session minutes, and then we had a brief discussion on potentially reopening the executive session minutes for January 10th. There was some material in there. And I know that there was some edits that Al had gratefully from my part circulated. I would actually like to pare it back further if we don't mind. I think that starting with the first paragraph on the second page, I think the only thing that we really need to include for the discussion in the minutes here is the first sentence. That there was discussion among members regarding current conditions. Because I think that says it all. You know, I think it's simple, straight to the point.
Yep.
And then I think if we can, I think I would just like to alter the, and I know I'm saying this in public because assuming we're going to release this tonight, okay? Is that the last sentence, I think that we can say that what I think I wanted to say, as Mr. Caulfield stated, the best thing to do currently is to nullify the vote for a 5-year lease and allow Mr. Luke to be a tenant at will until the project is rebid. Just modify that sentence, just say that the recommendation was that we nullify the bid.
Agreed.
So I can send this to you, Jennifer, so that it's clear. I'll have to do it from work because I think this is a PDF, so I think I'll have to do it from work. But I'll mark this up and send it back to you. But I think the intention is to remove like 4 or 5 sentences here, right in the middle of those 2 sentences.
Mr. Chairman?
Yep.
I can send you those minutes in a Word document.
That's fine. Yep, that'd be great. So is everybody comfortable with me making the edits and giving them to Tish, and then we can release that version?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. So so let's first of all, let's make a motion to reopen the minute for January. Did I already do that? No, I didn't.
No.
Let's make a motion to reopen the minutes for January 10th executive session.
Carol, second.
Caulfield's Benson, second. Roll call to reopen minutes.
Benson, aye.
Carol, I.
Crossman, aye.
Beatty, aye.
Caulfield's aye. And then, given that we just had that discussion, let's make a motion to amend the executive session minutes as described with the notation that I will make all those edits so there's no confusion, and I can give them to Tish tomorrow, and we'll release that version. Well, hang on. Let's amend the minutes first, and then we can vote on releasing it. So let's make a motion to amend the minutes as discussed.
Second.
Caulfield's Benson, second. Roll call.
Benson, aye.
Carol, I.
Crossman, aye.
Beatty, aye.
Caulfield's aye. That's 5-0 to amend. I will do that tomorrow. Then, so the next thing here is, so we have executive session minutes for January 10th and 4/25 that I think it's okay to release at this point. We will keep the executive session minutes from earlier in October not released. So I'm going to make a motion to release the executive session minutes 1/10/2022, the amended version that will be available tomorrow, and 4/25/2022.
Second.
Caulfield's with Crossman, second. Roll call.
Benson, aye.
Carol, I.
Crossman, aye.
Beatty, aye.
Caulfield's aye. Thank you for the administrative patience. Okay, so next up is.
Actually, Rory, before we talk about the next meeting schedule, we do still have someone in the audience from Joshua Drive. Do you want to bring that up now so they don't have to listen to the last 10 minutes of our meeting? I'm assuming they're waiting for 8 Joshua. Oh, they're there. Okay.
Yeah. No. Yeah. So we have a Mr. and Mrs. Mood. You can turn on your video. Do you have a question or concern?
Oh.
Hello.
Oh, hello. No, I was just trying to see about Joshua Drive earlier, and I was in the wrong meeting, and I was hoping I didn't miss it, but it looks like I did.
Yeah, it was our first item. Are you in a butter?
Yes, I am.
So if you had a question, we can happy to try and answer it for you. Or...
So is the house, where would it be going compared to the wetlands?
So actually, there's no proposal yet on our plate yet. So the hearing tonight was to establish strictly where the wetlands were.
Okay.
In relation to the lot, and if the applicant chooses to go forward with a project on the property, whatever it is, they would have to come back to us, presumably, given the area, they may be actually be able to design it so it's not within resource areas. And so they may have to come back to us with a notice of intent, but we don't actually have a project in front of us for any sort of dwelling or anything at all.
Okay, so I was learning some things as I was watching this. We moved in here 2 years ago and didn't even know the wetlands were back there.
Yeah.
We haven't been dumping things back there, but I believe the people that lived here before were finding like car parts and things. I don't know if someone would want to come out and look to tell us what we can and can't do, or.
Sure. Just what's the address?
8 Joshua Drive.
Oh, okay.
So while we have you here.
Yep.
So actually one of the things that Jennifer did know, Jennifer, she's the agent,
yep.
On her inspection was some disturbance, unauthorized disturbance on the back part of your property. So
on the 8 Joshua Drive?
Correct. So
yeah, we had no idea about the wetlands until about 2 weeks ago.
Yeah. I know that's the way it usually goes. Jennifer, I don't know if you want to describe for us the disturbance and some of the concerns.
Well, it looked like part of the yard was in the 100-foot buffer zone. I couldn't find any wetland files for it, but then maybe the 50-foot buffer looks like there's some recent clearing of smaller brush. There's really no understory. So it was just a note to the commission that was happening and that I would need to contact the owner. So
yes, so yeah, there's a bunch of trees that had come down. I'd been cleaning up and things like that, and some leaves and things. If I could talk to someone to find out exactly what we can and can't do and what to clean up, because we have kids and we want to make it safe back there, but at the same point in time, we want to keep it clean and preserve what we can.
Okay. So the easiest thing to do is to just shoot me an email and I can reply with some dates to come to the property and show you what I need to show you.
Perfect. That'd be great.
So Jennifer's email address is right on the Conservation Commission website.
Okay.
And you can shoot her an email from there, and you guys get together, and she can come out, and you guys can look at the same things at the same time.
Perfect. That'd be great.
Okay.
All right. Thank you so much.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Thanks. I'll email you soon.
Great. Thank you.
All right. Bye.
Thank you, Jennifer, for noticing we had somebody there. I appreciate it. The meeting schedule for 2023. So the only question that I had about this was, does this presume a return to in-person meetings at some point?
Not yet.
So,
Not yet. The state of emergency, the governor continued through, I want to say April 14th, maybe.
Right. Yeah. I mean, I knew it was in the early springtime. I'm just at some point I think we can probably approve this, but I think that we may have to be cognizant of that scheduling issue that comes when, Zoom, we can all three of us have meetings on the same night, right? It's, planning, zoning, and, select board and us all on the same night. I mean, it's not, it happens all the time now. Nobody even questions it. But when we have to schedule rooms, it's going to be a little bit more challenging. I'm suggesting to the commission that anything after about April 1st should be considered temporary at this point. Because we're going to have to re-examine it when the time comes to make sure that we can get an adequate room to do this if we have to go back to in-person meeting. Okay. To be honest, I think there's a lot of boards around the Commonwealth that are quite happy we have Zoom meetings. Probably this one is amongst those. So at the same time, we have to be cognizant of the public participation aspect of these public meetings. So while Zoom is great for those people that can't get out, and it's probably in many ways we've had people show up that wouldn't show up in person, but other people want to show up in person. So we have to sort of say, okay, which half do we satisfy the most? So at the end of the day, it'll be a decision that's maybe out of our hands. There's been talk about going hybrid in some of this a little bit. So, but that's a very complicated aspect because you have to be able to do it in person and remote, and it's pretty challenging from a technology standpoint. So I'm only saying to you, anybody have any questions, concerns about any of the dates? I think that the only thing is that the first date on there, it says it's Monday, December 20th. I think Monday is a December 19th. That's already on our current schedule.
It also says 2021, so.
So
we can just delete that line.
Yeah, that's exactly right. So any questions? I mean, it's about every 2 or 3 weeks is sort of normal. We try and avoid Labor Day. We try and avoid July 4th week. Those type of things. And invariably, we'll all have something to do on a couple of these days and not be able to make it. I think so.
It also takes into account the annual town meeting.
Yep.
So if you have a special town meeting or something like that, you could get bumped. You could get bumped.
Looks good to me.
Okay. So we'll make a motion to accept the draft 2023 conservation meeting schedule with the one change of removing the first date.
Beatty, a second.
Roll call vote. Caulfield's. Sorry. Go ahead.
Benson, aye.
Carol, I.
Crossman, aye.
Beatty, aye. Lost the mute.
Caulfield's aye, and it was Caulfield's Spady a second. The only update I have is that I'm going to start working with Jennifer on putting together a number of outstanding topics, projects that we may sort of have queued up that we can maybe prioritize. We can have a conversation about it and prioritize which one. There's no way we can get them all done, and I think if we pick 2 or 3 to prioritize, that might be a good choice for us, and we can determine whether or not we need to create subcommittees or something along those lines to sort of share the burden of all these things. I mean, I probably have about 7 or 8 on my sort of running list that I occasionally talk to Jennifer about. I mean, one of the big things that's on mine is the forestry plan, and see if we can find a way to implement that. I think that the carbon sequestration of the value of our forests in town is incredible, and we really need to protect it. So from my standpoint, I'd like to get that to be a priority in the next 12 to 18 months, and if we can. And but I'm just one commissioner, and I'd like to get it out to everybody. And I will do my best over the next couple of weeks. I have a couple of days off from work, so maybe I'll spend a little time putting it in a more organized manner, although it is in a list already. And I'll shoot that off to Jennifer. I'm sure she's got a couple of things on her list that I have no idea about. That she'll share with us as well, and then we can literally just spend 10 minutes on a meeting that we don't have a ton of stuff that's bearing down on us. We might have a little bit of flexibility to be able to spend 15 minutes talking about setting some priorities. So if you guys actually have ideas too, maybe I'll send around the list a couple weeks before the meeting, and then you can sort of give me some feedback individually, and I can add them to the list that we would then maybe put out as a public document at the time of the meeting. So then maybe that's the best way to do it. I'll get a list over to Jennifer within the next week or two, and then we'll spend another week or two, refining the list between the 2 of us. I'll send out a draft to everybody. You reply individually to me with whatever other topics you have. We won't talk about it at that point, and then we'll just compile a final list that we'll put on some agenda in the next 4 to 6 weeks when we get the time to do it. I don't want to put it on a meeting where we're ending at 8:30. So preferably, Jennifer.
A 2-hour meeting is still not bad.
I know. We're trying to get through this stuff for sure. So
we're being very efficient.
So that's my only chair update.
Okay. Environmental planner updates. I messed up on the advertisement, so the RFP had one date and the legal notice at another date. So I have to rebid Tufts Farm. But we did get 2 good proposals. So I would anticipate they would resubmit. And so the new deadline will be January 9th. In the meantime, we did met the oil company out there. They cleaned out the furnace that hadn't been maintained since 2019. So that looked good. We have to replace the thermostat. I asked them to do an inspection of the oil tank and make sure that was okay because we're pretty close to running out of oil and I didn't want to fill it if there was a problem with it. And they said, yes, you should replace this. So we have a little bit less than a month left with maybe a quarter of a tank of oil with the heat on the lowest, it's like 55. So then I'm thinking, well, we kind of need to make a decision. Does it make sense to start to try to move toward electric and think about solar? Or do we stick with oil and just replace the tank? I don't know how much time we have to really think about or research too much of that. But I don't think the oil company is going to come and only fill half the tank while we think about it. So just a thought, if does anyone have any thoughts on that? Maybe do mini splits.
This time of year with lead times on heating, I think unfortunately you got to get the oil tank filled and the heat on. Especially where we're bidding it for people to be in for January. I think long-term discussion, heat pump and some renewable resources make sense over there.
Okay.
But I think that also gets into a little bit larger question about long-term envelope restoration on that house. Which, I'm not opposed to, but I think we need some type of a budget that's more than what we currently have over there.
Yes. Okay.
And I think there's a lot of programs out there with that help support transition to renewables as well as heat pumps, but it's going to take more than 4 to 6 weeks to figure it out. You know what I mean? Yeah. So that's the real problem here. Is that the time frame that we're in is, if we had a year, I'd say go ahead. But with a few weeks, I just think we have to sort of stick with the status quo for now. And
I think their snafu is that they say we're not going to put oil in that tank. Then we have a different issue. But
should we get the water drained? So if there's any hiccups in filling or the furnace goes down, we don't lose a lot of plumbing. That could be an expensive option.
Isn't it blown out already? No. For some reason I thought it was.
No, the community garden is done, not the house.
We should probably get that blown out then while we resolve this.
Okay.
I think the advice here is, oil, replace the tank as necessary, and
yeah.
Oh well, if we winterize it, then we don't have to get more oil, right?
That's true.
We're not heating anything.
What do you like realistically? If we have would you say January 1st for the new RFPs?
January 9 for the new RFP. You're probably talking another month before you make a decision.
So we're into February, March before.
Really March.
We're into March before somebody's in there.
Depending how quickly they can move.
Right.
Do we have a budget? Like
it's getting close to being used up.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, like solar and a heat pump on that house, you're probably talking about $35,000.
Plus, you haven't even committed to where we're putting the solar. If we're putting it in the field, we still got to mow that and clean that.
So you have 17,000 left of the 20,000 you earmarked for this. Some of those items, I don't know if that's appropriate for a CPA funding.
How old's the heating system?
Oh man,
old.
Original.
If we could just drop, I mean, you could do mini splits on a pretty short lead time. You could do the heat pumps and then worry about where the electricity comes from later on.
But I don't know. It's always another issue, right? Because electricity is a problem.
Yeah, but you got an old heating system in there. I don't know.
And the age of the tanks, if it's over 25 years, you may not, it may not be insurable.
Well, it's got some rust.
I'd be in favor, and I know I'd be in favor of looking into putting some mini splits in that as a potential solution over the next few months.
I'm sorry, what was your suggestion? Sorry, Ben?
A couple like mini splits. Talk to somebody who actually does that, right? But I'd imagine a few mini splits, you could take care of heating and cooling in that unit, and you'd be on electrical, and then you have a brand new heating system in that house. You can kind of get rid of that old oil tank, and I bet you could do that for less. And I know if all you have left is 17 grand, I bet you're close to running out the budget on that. But that's a pretty significant capital improvement that I think we'll get the use out of.
I just had one replaced and had a new one added and another one moved, and that was $4,000 for a new tank and moving the old one.
Yeah. So we're damned if we do, damned if we don't. I think the other question is who is the tenants responsible for paying for heat once they're in? How much more expensive or less expensive is it going to be to heat that thing with electricity? I don't know the answer. That's all.
I wonder if
you're going to have pretty good thermal insulation, new windows.
Yeah.
Otherwise, it's going to be very expensive.
Not trying to like rule it the farming community. I don't think they're really into that electric heat stuff. I mean,
yeah,
they need to have a generator with a pan.
Okay, well, this is a good start anyway. I can check with DPW and see if they have suggestions.
Would you ask them to take a look at the circuit as well, the circuit breaker? You know, what kind of capacity you have in there, because that may have to be changed depending on the use of heat pumps or other, you know, higher powered electrical apparatus.
Okay. That's it for Tufts. Randall Street Town Council did give a draft agreement. I had some comments and sent them back, and I'm still waiting for them to come back to me so we can send them to the Doyles. And that's it for me.
I just have a quick one, which probably could have been an email. West Street, which is technically Stoughton, Ames Pond, though, you know, it's half in Stoughton, half in Easton. They're repaving I think they might just be doing the Cape Cod berms, but there's been a lot of trucks over there. They don't have a permitized system. I just want to make sure that we know that it's happening. That's all, and that there's appropriate precautions. Because I didn't see any erosion barriers or anything like that up. And those Cape Cod berms are right on the lake.
Oh, okay. Thank you.
Okay. Anybody have a motion for me?
Motion to adjourn.
Second. Spady with Caulfield second. Roll call vote.
Benson, aye.
Carol, aye.
Rossman, aye.
Spady, aye.
Caulfield aye. Thank you all. Appreciate it.
There you go, guys.
Thank you.
Thanks again.
Thank you, everyone.
the silverware, like those 4 drawers, that should be on the, that top one.
You're not seeing it?